In this section, we will discuss the last few remaining topics pertaining to the kicking game. This includes fair catches, players out of bounds, and illegal kicks. A fair catch is a catch by a receiver of a free or scrimmage kick in which he is afforded protection from contact in exchange for being able to advance the ball. For a free kick, the fair catch must be made in or beyond the neutral zone, while for a scrimmage kick, it must only be made beyond the neutral zone. In order to have a valid fair catch, a player on the receiving team must extend his hand far above his head and wave it back and forth. Everyone watching should be able to tell it's a fair catch signal. This signal does not have to be given by the player who catches the ball. Any player on the receiving team can call for a fair catch any time after the ball has been kicked and before it hits the ground. An invalid fair catch signal includes any signal that doesn't meet the requirements for a valid fair catch. This could be a hand not extended far enough in the air or a player not waving his hand back and forth. Back judges should tell the receiver on fourth down what they expect for a valid fair catch signal. This helps prevent the potential for an invalid fair catch signal. An invalid fair catch signal is also one given, even if it does meet the requirements to look like a valid fair catch signal, after the ball has been touched by either K or the ground. In these situations, this is a foul for an invalid fair catch signal. This is a 5-yard penalty from the succeeding spot. We also have a dead ball at the spot of the catch or recovery. However, we don't consider this as a fair catch, and thus the team cannot request a free kick. Finally, an illegal fair catch signal is one that is given once the runner has possession of the ball. This is a 5-yard foul from the spot of the foul. However, the ball is not dead at this point. A player who gives the fair catch signal cannot be contacted unless he muffs the ball. We need to make sure that the player isn't interfered with either. So, while there might not be any contact, we can still have kick catch interference. However, if the receiver muffs the ball, he loses protection and can be contacted. Once R catches or recovers a kick after either a valid or invalid fair catch signal, Team R cannot advance the ball. If he does, it's a dead ball foul for delay of game. This also applies to a player who doesn't give the signal himself, but a teammate gives one. We need to use common sense when applying this rule. If a signal is given behind him or where he can't see it, we don't want to punish the player in a way the rule doesn't intend. If a player who doesn't give a signal catches the kick, he isn't afforded the same protections. We might have contact with this player, and as long as it's not a personal foul, we should ignore it. At the same time, a strong whistle after this catch will help avoid unnecessary contact. Once the ball strikes the ground, protection ends. The player could be blocked legally. However, once the ball is possessed, the play is over. Finally, a player who gives a fair catch signal cannot initiate contact. If he does, we have a 15-yard penalty for blocking after a valid or invalid fair catch signal. After a fair catch or awarded fair catch, Team R has two options. The most common option is to put the ball into play with a snap. We should just assume that this is the option that is going to be taken. They can select anywhere between the hash marks to next snap the ball. The second option is a free kick in which the team can attempt a field goal. If they choose this option, the team line up like they would a normal free kick, with K's restriction line being the yard line that the fair catch was made, and Team R's restriction line being the 10-yard spot beyond that. All other free kicking rules apply. We also need to change the alignment for officials since this is a field goal. What we would do in the Columbia District is have the referee and umpire go under the goalpost. The back judge will line up at the cage restricting line, and the wing opposite the back judge will be on ours restriction line. Finally, the wing on the same side as the back judge should line up at the goal line. We need to make sure we can still keep the action boxed in this case, just in case there is a return. The option for a snap or free kick remains if any of the following happens. First, if a dead ball foul occurs any time before the snap, the team can change their choice. Second, if we have a penalty during the play which requires a replay of the down, they can make a choice again. Finally, if we have an inadvertent whistle and a replay of the down is chosen, the team can choose to either free kick or snap the ball again. The kicking team cannot go out of bounds and continue to participate in the play, even if it's unintentional. This is the same rule that applies to offensive teams during scrimmage downs. However, if a player is blocked out of bounds, if he returns at the first opportunity, he can keep participating in the play. For the receiving team, a player can unintentionally go out of bounds and return, but at no time can any player intentionally go out of bounds and come back and participate in a play. This is a foul for illegal participation with a 15-yard penalty from the basic spot. This is the same penalty for a kicking player who unintentionally goes out of bounds and continues to participate. Illegal kicks are any kicks that take place outside of the rules. While there is technically a difference between an illegal kick and kicking the ball illegally, both of these penalties are the same, so we won't get into the difference between these two terms. First, any kicking of a ball in a manner not allowed by the rules is illegal. This would be similar to the illegal batting rules. So, for example, if a ball is rolling around on the ground after a fumble, it cannot be intentionally kicked. Keep in mind, this is an intentional act. So if a player accidentally contacts the ball with a foot while trying to recover it, we say this is a muff ball rather than an illegal kick. Second, any kick that doesn't comply with the scrimmage kick rules are illegal. This would consist of a scrimmage kick taken beyond the neutral zone or a kick after a change of possession. These are considered fumbles and should be treated as such. However, if the back judge can't see this, we can continue as normal kick and enforce the penalty from the succeeding spot if Team R has possession, or from the spot of the kick and replay the down if Team K has possession. An illegal kick is a 10-yard penalty enforced from the basic spot.